Hello, dear ones. Father Peter John coming to you from, I'm not at All Saints Orthodox Church. I'm at an undisclosed location. We'll call it the bunker. Anyway, I am coming to you tonight to talk about somebody we celebrated this week, Saint Nectarios of Aegina. He's one of my favorite saints, and if you don't know who he is or you know very little about him, trust me, do a little bit of reading and pretty soon he'll become one of your favorites too. He is called a saint for our century. Of course, that book was written before the 21st century, but he lived in the end of the 19th and the first part of the 20th century in Greece. Now let's talk about Saint Nectarios. Saint Nectarios loved coffee, which is why I have him here with a coffee mug. He loved coffee. I mean, when I say he loved coffee, it's not like, he'd order it if he went to IHOP and got pancakes and coffee and, once in a while. It's like coffee for him, he was always writing, always praying, always writing. He wrote so many books, theological works. He was a poet, a hymnographer, just an amazing man, a philosopher, just an amazing, amazing bishop. And anyway, so St. Nectarios, toward the end of his life, he founded a women's monastery on the island of Aegina. And he, all of these nuns, they were there, and he was their spiritual father. And St. Nectarios gave them an obedience. He, as the spiritual father of the monastery, told them, this is the rule I want you to keep. Well, he told them that they could have a cup of coffee in the morning and a cup of coffee in the afternoon. Well, after his repose in the 1930s, this rule continued in the monastery there at Aegina. But during World War II, there was no coffee and no sugar, incidentally, to be found at the market at Aegina, and so they couldn't get more coffee. So the abbess of the monastery, she's the woman in charge, she decided that she was going to limit the nuns to just one cup of coffee a day, that in the morning. Sounds reasonable, right? Well, so that day came and went. The nuns had their coffee in the morning. They had to skip their coffee in the afternoon. And it was bedtime, and so the abbess went to sleep. And in her sleep came St. Nectarios. He said to her, "How come you didn't let the nuns have their coffee in the afternoon?" She says, there is rationing, and so there is no coffee at the market and no sugar at the market. And so I told them, we're just going to have one cup of coffee for a while because we want to make it last. And he said, no. He said, my job is to make sure that there is enough coffee at the monastery. Your job is to do what I told you. I gave you a rule and you're to keep it. So that same night, there was a supply ship, out at sea. And the captain of that ship was asleep, and the crew was taking care of the ship. And in his sleep, a man came to him and said to him, I want you to bring a bag of coffee and a bag of sugar to the island of Aegina. That is my home. I wanted you to bring it there tomorrow. Well, the captain woke up, and he went to his crew, and he says, are any of you from Aegina? A couple of the men came forward. They said, yeah, we are from Aegina. And he told them about his dream. And they said, oh, that sounds like something that St. Nectarios would do. He says, show me a picture of the man. And so they have a picture, an icon or something of St. Nectarios. I guess it wasn't an icon yet. It would have been a picture. They have a picture of St. Nectarios, and they show him, and he says, that is the man that came to me in my dream. So he's convinced, right? So he says, go to Aegina. So they take the boat, go toward Aegina, and in the morning, the captain gets out, gets a car, and drives to the monastery. And he goes and he tells the nuns at the monastery, you need to come to the shore to pick up groceries. So the nuns said, okay. So they go to the shore to pick up the groceries, and they're waiting for them. Is this large bag of a sack of coffee beans and a large sack of sugar, thanks to their spiritual father, Saint Nectarios, the founder of their monastery, who continued to watch over them even after his repose from this earthly life. It just makes me want to have a cup. I don't know about you, but there's just nothing like a good, hot, steaming cup of coffee. Yeah, Christ is in our midst. He is and ever shall be.